Hi guys, I'm back today with a video on a brand that you guys already know. I get super hyped anytime that they release anything, but I knew that this was coming, and because I knew it was coming, I also picked up a few other things. Now, the brand that I am talking about is Melt Cosmetics, and of course the palette that I'm speaking of is the MaryJane palette. This is what the outside looks like. It has like the smoky exterior. It's got it onto the back side. This palette is $58. It shipped immediately. I got it super quick. You know how Melt does. It's crazy. It's like you press order and they're like, boom, it's shipped. Holla. That is just the way they roll, and I love it. I love their operations. I think they do a great job. And of course, Sydney in customer service there is the absolute best. There is not a company that has better customer service almost than Melt Cosmetics. So when you pull the palette out, it looks like this, which it is so beautiful. This has a smoky look to it as well. It kind of reminds me of White Flowers though a little bit too. And then it has all like, and this is glittery here. It's glitter inside of the lettering. I was trying to see. It does move around. Ooh. Well, that was strangely gratifying because that's just kind of how I am. It's shiny and I'm kind of like a dragon, but not nearly as cool. So in any case, that's what the outside looks like. The back is like this. And on the inside, you have 10 beautiful shades. And these are, I mean, Melt just does it. They, like, when it comes to color stories, there is not very many brands that are doing it like Melt. I feel like no matter what it is, there's not been a single one. Okay. Let me back this up. I feel for the most part, Melt has not done color stories that I dislike. Now, I'm just going to be real honest with you guys and say that the Beetlejuice Collection's color stories were not my favorite, but the colors were beautiful and they do play well with the other palettes. So, that being said, this is definitely, this is just like touching my soul in some creepy ways right now. And as I mentioned, I did pick up some more cream blushes because they are really good. Right now in the cream blushes, I'm wearing Sundown kind of as like a bronzer, and then I put Cali Dream over the top. So now I officially have all of them because I loved them. So if you guys have not seen my review on them, make sure you check it out. I'm going to try and link it down below so you can. But let me just say, I went for 4 and then I went back for more. That was so weird, but hey, how you doing? Anyway, I like them. I think they do a great job. Their cream products are beautiful, and I do have sensitive skin, but I had no issues with it, even though I do occasionally have issues with the like liner pots, which is heartbreaking because they have gorgeous shades. But this collection, I actually wanted to get the whole thing, but I don't smoke, even though I do think the pipe's really cool. Like, I don't smoke anything, but I still was kind of like, maybe I should get it. I really think that's cool. I like the tray. I'm so ridiculous. I have a problem. But in any case, and I really, even though I can't use glitters, was kind of like creeping on the glitters too. I was like, I could never put these on my eyes, but I want to put them on my nails. However, I did not pick those up. I just got the palette because in all reality, that's all I can use from that. So that's what I did. I'm really sorry if you guys wanted to see those. I cannot put them on my eyes. But I do want to do swatches of this palette for you, and I want to give you a very in-depth look at this. I'm not sure if I'm going to put a second look with this video or if I'm going to do another video where I do a few different looks with this. So I'm just going to give you guys some of my thoughts right now so you have them right off the cuff. Let me just talk about these shades. Of course, the color story that is in here is beautiful, but I want to talk about the formulas that are within, because just in case you guys don't already know this, or even if you do already know this, Melt's formulas in their eyeshadows, at least with the metallics, can be a little like hit and miss in my opinion. Oh my gosh, I just smacked myself with this. Whoo, I didn't break it. Everything's okay. Everything's alright. But I just want to tell you what each of the formulas is like. Now, when I swatch them, I kind of go over it, but I want to talk about it a little bit more. So this shade right here and this shade right here are both like that Charlotte Tilbury pop shade kind of like texture. They are extremely thin. It doesn't seem like you're going to get a lot of payoff, which is, it's a lie, actually. Don't mind me. I'm going to break everything on my desk talking about this. Anyway, that is actually what I've got on the front half of my eye. So I am, despite how it swatches and what the texture is on your finger and even on your brush, it does apply really nicely, because actually I've got an eyeshadow base on, but it was completely dry before I even started putting this on. So the payoff of it is surprisingly good. So you may not necessarily like that at first, and I'm not really into flaky, like copper type of textures. They really drive me nuts. However, this has performed so far really, really well. And then when you come down to, like, for instance, this kind of shade right here, and this shade right here, and this shade here, and here, well, we're going to come back to this one. So these 3 shades right here are all very, very similar. So those actually run more on the just slightly more than satin side, if that makes any sense. They're like just slightly shinier than a satin would be. And the texture of them is really weird. Like, they're very weird, but they do perform yet again. So I want to complain because I'm not a fan of the texture when I'm touching it. But on the brush and when I applied it, it worked so well. But these are very, very dry. they're very dry, which is strange to me. Now, this one up here, which is Sweet Lucy, this was more of a waxy feel, and I have not put it on my eye yet, so I don't want to speak to how the performance is, but everything from like here down I did use today, and that's why I want to do a second look with this, whether I do it in this video or if I do another video where I go in deep and I try to use it a few times, because I feel like that's kind of what I want to do. But I wanted you guys to be aware of what the textures were like before you purchased it. The other thing I will say is that I've already got a hard pan in this one right here, which is strange to me, but everything did perform really well when I used it. Now, at first, I wasn't crazy about how it was applying on this side, but then I used different brushes on this one, and it worked really well. So I would say just kind of go back and forth between your different brushes. I've got some that are natural hair, I've got some that are synthetic, and kind of just play around and see what works best with the formulation and your eyes. For me, I think some people, depending on how they apply it, it's going to change how it works. But for me, once I kind of changed up my brushes on this eye, I thought that they worked 100% like perfectly. Now for me, when I was using the shimmery shades or the topper shades on this eye, they worked really, really well. And I use the same brushes on both eyes for those. But the maths are what I mean when I'm talking about maybe checking out your different brushes to see what works best for you. So for a first kind of opinion on this palette, with my swatches, they were strange. Like, I really felt like these shades were very strange to the touch. So for instance, when Dana did those swatches on her like Instagram and they just looked super bold and really beautiful, there is no way she didn't dig into those pans to get them as like immediately thick as she got them. So that's just me being honest with you guys. However, I will say I used very little on my actual eye to get this kind of impact, and I think it is gorgeous. So the swatches are strange, the performance is good. Hopefully that makes sense to you guys, at least so far. I definitely want to get more use out of this, and in any case, I'm going to swatch this for you, and I'm going to do at least this eye look for you. If I decide to include a second look, it will probably be before this look. I think what I'm going to do is I am going to do some more looks with this, but I may combine it with some of the other palettes that are out. The other thing I want to do is maybe some comparison swatches between this and like the Rust palette. If you guys are interested in it, please let me know down below, because if you're not, then I don't even want to waste your time with it. But in any case, if you are interested in seeing swatches and this look, just keep watching. Alright, you guys. So the very first shade in this palette is called MaryJane, and let me just tell you up front that a few of these shades are really, really crumbly. And not just are they crumbly, but they're like that topper formulation, so unless you're really digging into the pan, you're not going to get like perfect swatches. So, this is MaryJane. Okay, you guys, now when I turn my arm, you can really see it. It is actually very shiny, and it is really beautiful. It's like a kind of olivey green metallic that is slightly gold as well. It is extremely pretty, for sure, but it definitely feels like a Charlotte Tilbury, like, eye pop shade color from her quads. It's called Gaspar. And that beautiful kind of green tone brown shade. It is so pretty. It's called Sweet Lucy. Now, this shade is gorgeous. It is sort of like an old gold deep brown with a bit of green. And the texture is really strange. It's like a waxy, flaky, yet if you press it down, you still get a really nice opaque coverage from it. But it is very weird. The next shade is called Bamba. And this is like a really beautiful charcoal gray kind of shade. It is, in the pan, it looks like it would be shiny, but if anything, it's kind of satiny. Again, it has like that kind of waxy texture, but it is far less flaky. It is called Sinsmilla. And that is a really nice charcoal brown shade. The shade is called Santa Maria. This is that same kind of waxy, flaky formula that turns out very opaque on the eye. I actually used this in my look today, and it was beautiful. And it is like a satin. This is like a brown toned gray. It's called Rubia. And that's a really beautiful, yet again, kind of gray toned brown shade. The thing I like about it is that it manages to be cool toned while also still being warm toned, if that makes sense. Called Bow. And that is that same kind of waxy, flaky texture, but it is such a beautiful brown. It has like a slight bit of gray to it. It is gorgeous. Okay, this one, I don't know if it's pronounced Mary or Mari. And that is like another gray tone tan shade. It is so beautiful. Yet again, cool while managing to be warm at the same time. I just love it. The last shade in the palette is called Cali. Alright, and that again is another one of those like topper formulas. It is very flaky, it is very like soft, so it's hard to get like it really opaque. Now, I do have this on the front half of my lid today, and it did turn out pretty darn good, but it is not my favorite formulation from them. This is kind of like a silvery kind of champagne shade, and that is what it looks like. I also like to swatch the shade Harsh Stone White next to all of this. I actually thought that they would be using that in this palette, but they didn't. It was one of my absolute favorite shades that they ever came out with, and it was in one of the stacks. But for now, this is the whole MaryJane palette. Alright, you guys, I am back, and I want to give you my final first thoughts, if that makes sense. I have not used this palette more than one time, so I'm not going to say, like, oh, it's 100% this. I have not used every single shade in this palette. Now, I have swatched everything in this palette, and I talked about it in the beginning. I feel like some of the textures, when they're swatched, are very weird, and I did not think they were going to perform well when I swatched them, but then on the eye, they do turn out to look very impactful. So you got to kind of weigh out whether or not that is a deal breaker for you. Personally, I think especially if you're somebody with less sensitive eyes than I am, you can use a glitter glue or even like give it a little spritz. I don't like to spritz my shadows when I'm doing a video because I want you to see without any extra oomph to it how they perform. So this is without anything other than an eye base that was already dry on my eye. Personally, I really like the look that I got with this. I had called my mom and I was like, Mom, I want you to come look at this. And she did. Bless her soul. 10 o'clock at night, she got in the car and came over to look at it because I don't leave my house a whole lot and nobody else was going to see this except for you guys. And I was really sad to waste such a good eyeshadow day without showing somebody. So despite the texture of some of these, I love the performance of it so far. I definitely want to do some more looks like I talked about before. If you guys are interested in maybe some comparison swatches to like the Rust palette, because I feel like there are a few that might be similar, but maybe not the same. Personally, I feel like the textures to the touch are better in the Rust palette than they are in this one. However, the performance is here so far that I can tell. Again, this palette was $58. I do think it was worth the money. I'm really glad I picked it up. I know that they said that the kit was limited edition, but I don't know about the palette, so I'm not exactly sure. I would say if you have an opportunity to pick this up, I would do so. I could actually do with picking up a second one because I really like it, despite feeling weird about those textures. If I find out that it's limited, I may actually pick up a second one because color-wise, I really like this color story, and I don't want to someday go, oh, I don't have this, I'm really sad, because the payoff, I love it. I think it's beautiful. I think you could make it more daytime appropriate. I think you could make it even more nighttime ready. They've done a really good job with this palette. So again, this is what the inside looks like. These are the colors. I really think that they did a great job. I think that the ladies at Melt have probably some of the best color sense that I've ever seen in a brand. They really know what works well together. And something else that I like is that all of the palettes that they've ever released, I feel like you can use them within each other and you're gonna have just gorgeous looks that you can create within each of them used together. Like, they all play well together, in my opinion. So for me, I think that so far, at least from my first opinion, I think this is really nice. I definitely think it's worth checking out. They have done a great job. Again, this shipped like immediately when I ordered it. It was here right away. And the customer service is, without fail, some of the very best that is out there. They have someone working for them named Sydney, and she is literally Sydney the Saint. That's kind of what I've like named her in my mind. So you can't go wrong with Melt. I think that they've done a great job. I cannot wait to see what else they're going to come out with next. If they ever come out with a cream foundation, your girl's going to be right on top of that because I love their cream formulation. So good. In any case, I really hope that this video was helpful to you guys. Please let me know if you do want to see a comparison video with some more looks with this palette down below. If you do like this video, make sure you give it a thumbs up. Or if you don't like it, put a thumbs down. That's fine too. Subscribe and ring the bell for future updates, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye, guys.